Major Chip Hazard, reporting for duty, sir. Are you scared? We're all scared.
Everything else is just a toy. Remember that tagline? It flashed across movie screens in the summer of 1998 as action figures with artificial intelligence, military-grade microchips, and surprisingly murderous instincts invaded theaters nationwide. That's right. We're talking about Small Soldiers, a film that asked the question, what happens when the war toys actually want to wage war? Released when Furbies were flying off shelves and Tamagotchis were dying in the bottom of backpacks across America, Small Soldiers landed in theaters with a modest $40 million budget and ultimately pulled in $72 million at the box office. Not exactly a blockbuster by Hollywood standards, but enough to cement its place in 90s pop culture. But here's the thing. What many parents expected to be a cheerful adventure about talking toys turned out to be something far more subversive. Behind its action figure premise and kid-friendly marketing lay a surprisingly dark satire about militarism, corporate greed, and the military-industrial complex. Director Joe Dante didn't just give us a movie about toys coming to life. He crafted a biting commentary on American consumer culture wrapped in the Trojan horse of a summer family film. Today, we're diving deep into this underappreciated gem to explore how a movie about 12-inch commandos managed to smuggle anti-war messaging into suburban multiplexes, and why, more than 25 years later, its warnings about technology and violence feel more relevant than ever. While Small Soldiers might not have been the highest-grossing film of 1998, what happened behind the camera was nothing short of revolutionary. The film stands as a fascinating technical bridge between old-school practical effects and the digital revolution that would soon transform Hollywood forever. At its core, Small Soldiers was a technical marvel that combined cutting-edge CGI from Industrial Light and Magic with the practical creature expertise of Stan Winston Studios. This wasn't just a creative choice. It was necessary for bringing these 12-inch commandos and their monstrous adversaries to convincing life. The film required over 4,000 special effects shots, an enormous number for 1998, particularly for what was ostensibly marketed as a family film. Stan Winston, fresh off his groundbreaking work on Jurassic Park, brought his signature touch to the animatronic puppets. The close-up shots of Chip Hazard's face with its eerily human expressions were achieved through meticulously crafted puppets with dozens of servo motors. Each Commando Elite figure contained over 200 moving parts, allowing for subtle facial expressions that CGI of the era simply couldn't match. The infamous scene where the Gorgonites hide in Alan's house required both puppetry for close interactions and computer enhancement for wider shots. Meanwhile, ILM was pushing boundaries in digital character animation. Remember the scene where the Commando Elite transform everyday household appliances into weapons of war? That sequence alone took 4 months to complete, blending practical props with digital enhancements in ways that had never been attempted before. What's particularly fascinating about Small Soldiers is how it emerged during a transitional period for DreamWorks. The studio was still finding its identity, caught between Steven Spielberg's family-friendly sensibilities and a desire to push creative boundaries. This tension is visible throughout the film. It wants to be both a toys-come-to-life adventure and a darker meditation on militarism and technology. Director Joe Dante brought his signature subversive touch to the project. Having previously directed Gremlins, Dante was no stranger to blending horror elements with comedy in ostensibly family-friendly packages. Small Soldiers allowed him to continue this tradition, creating moments of genuine tension and danger, unusual for a film marketed heavily toward children. The hardware store sequence, where the toys construct increasingly dangerous weapons, showcases Dante's ability to balance humor and horror in perfect measure. What many viewers don't realize is just how challenging the production actually was. The script underwent numerous rewrites as the studio struggled with the film's tone. Was this a kids' movie with adult themes, or an adult movie with kid appeal? This indecision led to some fascinating creative compromises that actually enhanced the film's quirky charm and gave it a unique identity that doesn't quite fit into any single genre box. Small Soldiers assembled an impressive cast that helped elevate what could have been a straightforward toys-come-to-life story into something with genuine emotional resonance and surprising depth. The film's human characters provide the grounding element, but it's the voice performances that truly make this movie memorable. Perhaps the most poignant casting note is that Small Soldiers represents Phil Hartman's final film role. The beloved comedian and SNL alum portrayed Phil Fimple, the neighbor whose suburban dad exterior masked a military obsession. Hartman brought his signature blend of warmth and subtle comedy to the role, making what could have been a one-dimensional character feel genuinely human. His performance becomes even more meaningful, knowing the film was released posthumously following his tragic death just 2 months before the premiere. The inspired decision to cast Tommy Lee Jones as Chip Hazard, the ultra-patriotic leader of the Commando Elite, proved to be a masterstroke. Jones brings military authority and unhinged determination to every line, creating a villain who's both genuinely menacing and hilariously over the top. His delivery of "There will be no mercy,"
There will be no mercy,
still sends chills down spines today. The character becomes a perfect parody of the hyper-masculine action heroes that dominated 80s and 90s cinema. On the flip side, Frank Langella's performance as Archer, the thoughtful leader of the Gorgonites, provides the emotional core of the film. Langella's rich, contemplative voice creates a character of surprising depth, a peaceful outsider trying to understand a world that sees him as a monster. The scene where Archer questions his own existence, "We are toys, but if we are toys, why do we live?" transforms a plastic action figure into a genuinely philosophical character grappling with existential questions. What many viewers don't realize is the brilliant casting decision to populate the rest of the Gorgonites with members of Spinal Tap. Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer bring their improvisational skills and chemistry to these misfit characters, creating genuine personality in what could have been forgettable side roles. The human side of the cast shouldn't be overlooked either. Kirsten Dunst, already a rising star following Interview with the Vampire and Jumanji, brings surprising nuance to Christy Fimple. Gregory Smith's Alan Abernathy serves as our everyman protagonist, a troubled teen whose connection with the Gorgonites feels authentic rather than forced. When it comes to memorable scenes, nothing tops the hardware store battle. This sequence perfectly encapsulates what makes Small Soldiers special: the Commando Elite's resourcefulness in transforming ordinary tools into weapons of war, the genuine danger faced by our protagonists, and the film's unique blend of humor and horror. When the toys construct a vehicle from power tools and begin hunting our heroes through the darkened store, the film crosses fully into thriller territory, creating tension that rivals adult action films of the era. The performances connect directly to the film's themes of otherness, militarism, and finding one's place. The Gorgonites, designed as enemies but programmed to be peaceful, embody the film's anti-war message, while the Commando Elite represent the dangers of unquestioning adherence to mission and authority. Through these plastic avatars, Small Soldiers delivers commentary that might have seemed heavy-handed if delivered by human characters. When Small Soldiers hit theaters in July 1998, it landed with something of an identity crisis. Parents expecting a light-hearted romp about talking toys were instead treated to a surprisingly dark satire featuring action figures who kidnap a teenager and attempt to murder a family with homemade napalm. The PG-13 rating should have been a clue, but the marketing, which leaned heavily on the toys-come-to-life angle, created expectations that the final product didn't quite match. Critics were decidedly mixed in their assessment. Roger Ebert praised the film's technical achievements, but noted it was too sophisticated for young children, too simplistic for older ones. Entertainment Weekly criticized its weird mixture of small-minded slapstick and violence. With a domestic box office of $55.1 million against its $40 million budget, Small Soldiers wasn't exactly a flop, but it certainly wasn't the breakout hit DreamWorks had hoped for. What's fascinating is how the film's reputation has evolved over the decades. What was initially dismissed as a tonally confused action comedy has gradually been recognized as something more subversive and intelligent. Modern critics have reassessed Small Soldiers as a sly critique of military propaganda and consumer culture, themes that were perhaps too ambitious for a film marketed primarily to children. One of the most controversial elements was the toy line itself. Hasbro produced action figures based on both the Commando Elite and the Gorgonites, creating an ironic situation where kids could purchase the very military toys the film was arguably criticizing. Parents' groups expressed concern about the toys' realistic weapons, especially in light of the film's violent content. This controversy reflected the exact themes the movie was exploring: how war toys normalize military violence for children. A fascinating hidden detail many viewers miss is that the military technology corporation in the film, Globotech Industries, is a direct satire of real defense contractors who were increasingly diversifying into consumer products in the post-Cold War era. The film's tagline, "The technology has arrived," takes on a more ominous meaning when viewed through this lens. Another clever but often overlooked aspect is the movie's visual references to classic war films. The Commando Elite's assault on the Abernathy home directly mirrors scenes from Apocalypse Now, complete with helicopter sounds and fire-lit silhouettes. These visual cues reinforce how children's understanding of war is shaped by media representations rather than reality. Perhaps the most interesting evolution in the film's reception is how its warnings about technology have aged. In 1998, the idea of AI chips creating self-aware toys seemed like science fiction. Today, with advanced AI systems, military drones, and increasingly autonomous weapons, Small Soldier's cautionary tale about technology, without ethical constraints, feels less like fantasy and more like prophecy. What started as a supposed misfire has over time been reclaimed as a cult classic that was perhaps ahead of its time. A film that dared to smuggle anti-war messaging and corporate criticism into what was marketed as summer entertainment for families. Looking back from 2025, Small Soldiers occupies a unique position in pop culture history. What initially appeared to be a moderate success with mixed reception has transformed into an influential cult classic that anticipated numerous cultural and technological developments we now take for granted. The film's influence on later Toys Come to Life movies is undeniable. While Toy Story had already established the concept of sentient toys 2 years earlier, Small Soldiers took the premise in a darker, more satirical direction. This approach would later be echoed in films like Ted, which similarly used the concept of a living toy to explore more adult themes. The Toy Story franchise itself eventually incorporated elements of existential crisis and obsolescence that were first touched on in Small Soldiers, particularly in Toy Story 3's darker moments. What makes Small Soldiers particularly relevant today is its prescient commentary on artificial intelligence and autonomous technology. In 1998, the concept of military AI chips giving sentience to consumer products seemed like pure science fiction. Today, with debates raging about AI ethics, autonomous weapon systems, and the militarization of consumer technology, the film's central premise feels uncomfortably prophetic. When Irwin Wayfair, David Cross, expresses concern about putting military-grade chips in toys, he's voicing the same ethical concerns that modern AI researchers and policymakers grapple with daily. The film's critique of the military-industrial complex has only grown more relevant. Globotech's casual decision to repurpose military technology for consumer products mirrors real-world defense contractors diversifying their portfolios. The blurring line between military and civilian technology, from GPS to the internet itself, makes the film's central conceit feel less like satire and more like documentary. Perhaps most significantly, Small Soldiers anticipated our cultural ambivalence about technology. The film presents a world where technological advancement outpaces ethical consideration, where corporate interests override safety concerns, and where militaristic values seep into everyday life. These themes resonate powerfully in an era of surveillance capitalism, data harvesting, and increasing technological dependence. Even the film's meta-commentary on action figures and war toys maintains its relevance. While the specific toys have changed, the underlying question remains: what values are we instilling in children through play? When Phil Fimple excitedly shows off his collection of military memorabilia, the film is asking us to consider how we romanticize and commodify warfare. What's particularly striking is how the film's visual aesthetic has influenced modern media. The blend of practical effects and early CGI created a unique look that has become increasingly appreciated in an era where digital effects often feel weightless and artificial. Directors like Guillermo del Toro have cited Small Soldiers as an influence on their approach to bringing fantastical creatures to life with tangible presence. The film's commitment to making its plastic characters feel physically present in the real world gives it a textural quality that many modern blockbusters lack. It's also worth noting how Small Soldiers serves as a time capsule for a specific moment in American consumer culture. Released during the action figure boom of the late 90s, the film captures the aggressive marketing tactics and brand-driven play that dominated childhood experiences of that era. Today, as physical toys increasingly compete with digital entertainment, the film's satire of toy marketing feels both nostalgic and surprisingly fresh. The relationship between the misfit Gorgonites and the militaristic commando elite also offers a political allegory that remains relevant. In an increasingly polarized world, the film's ultimate message about peaceful coexistence and questioning authority speaks to contemporary social divides. Archer's philosophy of hiding and learning rather than fighting provides a thoughtful counterpoint to Chip Hazard's aggressive jingoism. What ultimately gives Small Soldiers its staying power is how it balances its darker themes with genuine entertainment value. The film never forgets to be fun, even while it's being subversive. This balance allows its messages to resonate without feeling preachy, a quality that helps it remain watchable and relevant more than 25 years after its release. So next time you're browsing streaming services looking for something that blends nostalgia with surprising depth, consider revisiting Small Soldiers. It might just be more relevant today than when it first hit theaters. After all, as technology continues to advance at breakneck speed, the question at the heart of this film becomes increasingly urgent. When we create things with minds of their own, how can we ensure they share our values, rather than just our capacity for violence? And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Small Soldiers, hit that subscribe button for more explorations of films that deserve a second look. Are there other 90s movies you think were misunderstood or ahead of their time? Let me know in the comments below.